My mother, sister, and I all died on the anniversary of my father's death, right before his grave. As burning joss paper scattered, a deafening explosion instantly took our family of 3. When my thoughts cleared, I found myself standing in a funeral hall. My father's portrait and coffin came into view. I had been reborn 1 year earlier. At his funeral, my gaze swept over my mother, nearly fainting from grief, and my sister, hoarse from crying, before locking onto Uncle Michael Johnson. During the explosion, the blast's heat had hurled me into the air, where I'd glimpsed Michael's triumphant face in the distance. Clenching my jaw, I glared at him. Since I'd escaped the underworld, someone needed to take my place. Michael was perfect. My father, John Wilson, had been well loved. Mourners flooded in, pitying us widows while lamenting his fate. John Wilson was such a good man. Someone sighed. Gone too soon without a son. Exactly. Another agreed. How could such a good man die without an heir? Such a shame, that new 3-story house will end up with outsiders. Our village always prioritized sons. My sister Em and I? Just future outsiders to be married off. As the crowd clucked over the tragedy of my father's lineage ending, Michael suddenly roared. Enough! Who says my brother died without an heir? He thundered. Though my sister-in-law bore no sons, I have 2. Today, I declare my son David Johnson will be adopted into John's family. The room fell silent. By rural tradition, property went to sons. Michael was eyeing our wealth, exactly like last life. In my previous timeline, Mom had refused until she collapsed, delaying the adoption. But after the village's development, Michael redoubled his efforts. When Mom finally revealed our house was under mine and Em's names, he planted an explosive at Dad's grave. On the death anniversary, burning joss paper ignited the hidden bomb. The blast that killed us had shown me Michael's gloating face mid-air. Now reborn, I stared at that same face. Time to send him to hell instead. Michael, someone finally objected. David's a 20-year-old who still soils himself. Who wants a fool for a son? Another scoffed. I almost smiled. David's idiocy could be useful. Before I could speak, Michael snapped. So what if he's simple? He's still a man. Besides, he only turned foolish after a fever at 15, it's not inherited. Turning to Mom, he softened. Sis, David's 20. In 2 years, he'll marry. Just say yes, and I'll raise him myself. He'll give you grandsons, John's bloodline won't end. Would you really let your husband die without an heir? The scene unfolded exactly like my past life. Michael Johnson was still publicly pressuring Mom, as if her refusal to acknowledge his dim-witted son David Johnson would truly condemn Dad's lineage to extinction. Mourners murmured in agreement. Families with 2 sons are rare these days. Finding an heir won't be easy. David does seem suitable. After marriage and children, things might improve. Mrs. Wilson looks reluctant. When Mom remained silent, Michael's face darkened. My sister-in-law understands family duty. He addressed the crowd, adjusting his frayed collar to reveal a scar. You wouldn't let your husband's bloodline die, would you? Unless, he leaned closer. You have another boy in mind? Mom hadn't considered any alternatives. As Michael opened his mouth to press further, her eyes rolled back and she collapsed dramatically. Uncle Michael! I shrieked, my voice cutting through the funeral hall's smoky haze. 2 days since Dad's passing, and you're harassing Mom at his coffin? How dare you dishonor John Wilson's memory? The crowd murmured disapprovingly while Sophie Turner and I carried Mom away, temporarily derailing the adoption scheme. Same script as before, except now suspicious glances followed Michael. Even if urgent. Someone chided. Pushing your sister-in-law to faint at her husband's wake. Through the window. I watched Michael's face twist with frustration, mirroring my own twin vipers waiting to strike. Later, I advised Mom, if he brings up David again. Agree. Her shocked expression softened when I whispered. Grandpa always said David was destined for fortune. The village announcement comes within weeks. Next morning, cheap candle smoke stung our eyes as we knelt before Dad's photo. Michael stood over Mom like a vulture, sweat beading on his scarred neck. Without a male heir, who'll carry the burial urn? David's slow but pure Wilson Johnson blood. Even pretend adoption would silence gossips. His scheme was transparent. Public acceptance meant David inheriting our property under village customs, which meant Michael controlling everything. But this viper didn't know I'd already smelled the poison in his fangs. My mother kept crying, unable to speak a word. My little sister knelt beside her, her tiny frame shaking with sobs that grew louder than our mother's. Michael Johnson's face gradually showed impatience as he raised his voice. Sister-in-law, I told you this is just a formality to save our family's reputation after my brother's death. Why can't you understand? Startled by Michael's shouting, my sister wailed even louder. I quickly intervened. Mom, let's listen to Uncle Michael. When Sophie was born, even Dad refused to hold her. But Uncle Michael was the first to cradle her. He always said daughters are parents' precious blessings. He never looked down on us girls. Though Michael had indeed shown apparent joy at my sister's birth. Only after dying once did I realize his true motives. He'd been waiting to inherit our family's assets through patriarchal succession laws. Michael immediately praised me. "Em's so sensible." Then feigned concern. "Sister-in-law, even the young girl understands I mean well. Why can't you see reason?" Mom wiped her tears. "Michael, I don't want pretend solutions. I want to legally adopt David into our family. Since John's gone, I must secure our lineage." Michael's eyes widened. "You're serious? Then why refuse yesterday?" Mom sighed. "Selfish hopes. I wanted to adopt a nephew from my maiden family. But all my brothers only have one son each for their own inheritance. David's the only suitable choice, slow-witted but male." Ecstatic, Michael pressed. "Shall we announce this at John's funeral?" Eager to formalize the arrangement, he added, "Let David perform the ceremonial bull-breaking as heir tomorrow. We'll process his legal guardianship the next day." Mom agreed readily, though she'd be slapping herself in regret within weeks. The day after Dad's burial, Michael rushed to City Hall for adoption paperwork. After 20 days, David Johnson officially became David Wilson in our household registry. The formal adoption ceremony occurred 28 days post-funeral, witnessed by Mayor Robert Green and family elders. While Michael grinned triumphantly, Mom's smile strained as she glanced at me. I nodded imperceptibly, steadying her resolve. Addressing the crowd, Mom declared, "Since David's now our heir, the ancestral property deeded to him by Grandpa must remain his." Years earlier, during Grandpa's final hours, Michael had wept dramatically with his sons. "Dad, my brothers need land to marry. John has no sons." Now that very ploy would unravel his schemes. When Grandpa passed the old family home to his eldest grandson David Johnson, no one could have predicted the storm that followed. Days later, the old man died, and David suddenly became mentally impaired after a mysterious illness. The air turned icy when Sophie Turner spoke up at the family meeting. "Michael Johnson," she said, her voice sharp as she addressed her uncle, "you look like you've swallowed a lemon. Is there a problem?" Aunt Lisa Johnson recoiled as Sophie continued, "Since David's legally my son now, I have to secure his future. With his condition, what respectable family would marry their daughter to him without proper financial security? If you're having second thoughts about the adoption, we can forget the whole arrangement. What's the point if he can't carry on the family line?" Michael's eyes swept across our newly built 3-story house before his face cracked into a calculating smile. "Now, Sophie, don't be hasty. The property deed clearly bears David's name. I'll have someone fetch the documents immediately. His greedy gaze lingered on our modern home, a small price to pay for claiming Grandpa's estate. Or so he thought. The property transfer complete, we hosted a banquet for the villagers. Amidst the clinking bowls, someone taunted Michael, smart move. Johnson, you offloaded your simpleton son and scored a fancy house. Others mocked Sophie, lucky you. Mrs. Turner, instant motherhood without the stretch marks. At least he's a male heir. That's enough, I snapped. Grandpa always said David was born under a lucky star. The crowd erupted in laughter, including Mayor Robert Greene, who chuckled into his rice wine. I'll drink to that, though I've got town meetings tomorrow. 2 days later, the village bulletin board stopped everyone in their tracks. Demolition notice, compensation per household member. Michael's face turned storm-cloud dark as whispers swirled. The Johnsons' luck ran out again. Serves him right, tried swindling his widowed sister-in-law. Now the government's paying per head. The compensation package was generous. Our family compound would yield 2 3-bedroom units plus a smaller apartment. David's inherited property alone qualified for a luxury suite, with additional $300,000 per person compensation. That evening found Michael hunched in our parlor, pipe smoke coiling like his twisted schemes. Sophie, he began through gritted teeth. Old man Wilson was right about David's fortune. Sophie's eyes sparkled with barely contained triumph. Who knew? 2 days as my son. And we hit the jackpot. In the flickering lamplight, the scar on Michael's neck pulsed like a living creature, a permanent reminder of his endless greed. The Wilson-Johnson family drama had reached its final act. But the real story was just beginning. Across town, Mr. James Turner was advising his daughter Sophie about college funds, blissfully unaware how deeply our family's fates would intertwine in the coming storm of construction permits and inheritance battles. Sis-in-law, I'm taking David back. Hand over the legal papers. Michael Johnson spat a glob of yellow phlegm onto the freshly swept brick floor. Relocation compensation is calculated per household. If I just let you legally adopt David, I'd be throwing money away. I smashed the pickling jar against the table edge. Ceramic shards sprayed onto his pant leg as my bloodied palm burned. Uncle Michael, are you here to reclaim David, or his share of the compensation? He dropped the act immediately. Since we're being blunt, David may be legally yours now. But I raised him for 20 years. You think that was free? Besides, it's only been 2 days since the adoption. Snatching his money already? A 3-bedroom apartment plus $300K cash, that's no small sum. Keep the boy for your family line. But his money and property stay with me. I smiled coldly. What's improper about it? David's registered under our household now. If his treatment required $1 million, would you pay? Of course. Michael's neck veins bulged. He's my flesh and blood. I'd sell everything to cure him. Mom immediately produced a medical report stating David's condition resulted from severe trauma. Treatment could help, at an estimated $800. 000. Michael's face darkened. Sis-in-law, you set me up. Since when do hospitals cure stupidity? What quack wrote this? Are you calling my daughter a quack? Mayor Robert Greene's voice boomed. I'd specifically invited the mayor, whose daughter headed the city psychiatric hospital. Realizing the trap, Michael stammered as the mayor sneered, "Karma's swift for those scheming against widows and orphans." Wouldn't you agree, Michael? After Michael fled, the mayor advised Mom, Mrs. Wilson, give him part of David's share. Consider it protection money. Typical small-town politics. These officials never helped when Michael bullied us after Dad's death. But now that his words slighted the mayor's daughter. The next day, rumors spread that David's treatment actually required millions, supposedly leaked by the mayor's daughter. The mayor publicly raged. Michael tried stealing from the Wilsons yesterday. Now he slanders my family? Villagers mocked Michael mercilessly. How's it feel to gift your cousin's family a luxury apartment? Michael? Soon, even the church ladies cackled, serves him right. Tried to cheat his brother's widow. But God flipped the script. Mayor Green's final verdict echoed through town, when you scheme against heaven itself, don't be surprised when heaven schemes back. Michael became the village laughingstock, a greedy fool outsmarted by his own plot. The Wilson-Johnson family feud became local legend. Proof that no con survives divine intervention. In my past life, Michael Johnson had never endured such humiliation or suffered such losses. Though Aunt Lisa Johnson verbally agreed to adopt David Johnson, under Michael's instigation, she treated it as mere play acting. David's household registration remained under the Johnson family, so the demolition compensation funds and property naturally stayed with Michael. But this time, everything changed. Despite Michael's protests, the compensation securely landed in Aunt Lisa's account. Michael couldn't sit still anymore. The moment the funds cleared, he stormed Aunt Lisa's home with a group of villagers. Aunt Lisa, he demanded, didn't you promise to find doctors who could cure David? When are you taking him for treatment? His cronies chimed in, you swore to treat David as your own son. Don't go back on your word. If you won't treat him, give David back to me. Aunt Lisa, prepared as we'd rehearsed, calmly replied, we're leaving in a few days. Actually, Emily's sister needs to start school in the city. We'll take them both together. David's eyes widened. Emily's sister going to school downtown? That must cost a fortune. He spluttered. Aunt Lisa, even with demolition money, you can't squander funds like this. We need to save for David's marriage. Aunt Lisa patted Michael's hand reassuringly. Don't worry, Michael. Education costs hardly anything these days. I quickly added. Exactly, Uncle Michael. My sister's tuition is pocket change. I've already secured a job to support her. Our family money should focus on David's treatment. As the doctor said, even spending every penny doesn't guarantee a cure. Leaning closer, I dropped my voice. If we exhaust our funds, we might need your support. After all, David's your biological son. You wouldn't abandon him, right? Instead of anger, Michael chuckled. I immediately realized forcing treatment wasn't his true objective, since treatment might fail anyway. He smirked. Why waste money? Better to save for David's wedding. Get him a good wife. Give you grandchildren. Continue my brother's lineage, don't you agree? Before Aunt Lisa could respond, Michael continued. I've already found David a bride, college educated. The crowd murmured appreciatively. Naturally. Such a catch requires higher dowry 800,000. Same as medical costs. Small price for healthy grandchildren. He gestured to a stranger in the crowd. Meet the bride's father, David's future father-in-law. Aunt Lisa and I exchanged stunned glances. Against all odds, Michael had actually found a college girl willing to marry David. Our verification showed the man's credentials checked out. Catching my signal, Aunt Lisa declared, I'm completely satisfied with this match. Though David has limitations, we'll ensure her comfort in every other way. Let's set a date for the engagement party. We'll pay full dowry provided she treats David well and gives us healthy grandchildren. Michael's eyes lit up with barely concealed triumph. Sis-in-law, you have to keep your word. If you don't find Dave a wife, give him back to our family. Let's put this in writing. The neighbors here can testify. Aunt Lisa Johnson readily agreed. The moment they left, I immediately went to the university the man mentioned and found Sophie, who was studying there. On the engagement day, Sophie was delivered unconscious to our house. Her father, Mr. James Turner, whispered to Aunt Lisa, did you really think my college-educated daughter would willingly marry your simpleton? Don't worry. I drugged her. Just have your son take advantage, and the marriage will be settled. Once a woman's deflowered, She'll behave. Right? Aunt Lisa nodded repeatedly but countered, then the dowry should be paid after it's done. If she wakes up and refuses midway, I'd lose money for nothing. After prolonged haggling, Mr. Turner finally agreed. Aunt Lisa nodded at me, sending a recording file. I immediately went out and called the police. Within 20 minutes, police cars arrived with sirens blaring. Mr. Turner and Michael were taken away, while Sophie was rushed to the hospital. When she awoke, I sat by her bed. She smiled weakly. Did I win the bet? I nodded. Returning her smile, I promised if you trusted me, I wouldn't let you lose. With current evidence, as long as you don't submit a pardon letter, your father will serve several years. That should give you enough time to graduate, find work, handle paperwork, and start fresh elsewhere. I paid all Sophie's hospital bills and gave her $20,000 as financial aid. She accepted graciously. Aunt Lisa remarked, "That girl's got guts. Actually trusting you. She could have just stayed away. Her father couldn't have forced her then." I shook my head. Why leave loose ends when you can solve things permanently? Mr. Turner later got sentenced to 5 years. Michael, ever cunning, left no evidence and escaped prosecution. I was satisfied enough. Why keep potential troubles? After Dave was adopted into our family, Aunt Lisa only took him to doctors occasionally. Yet he gradually improved. When she noticed real progress, proper medical care followed. I felt conflicted being Michael's son. I couldn't muster sympathy, but realizing we were spending his own inheritance money helped me accept it. Within months, Dave regained full mental clarity, becoming indistinguishable from others. The village buzzed that our Wilson-Johnson family estate had healing properties, even curing simpletons. I expected Michael would rejoice. Dave's recovery meant reclaiming his inheritance from Aunt Lisa's custodianship. Yet Michael grew increasingly anxious, visiting Dave secretly and probing me. Has Dave said anything? He's a simpleton. Don't take his ramblings seriously. His nervousness sparked my suspicion. Dave's improvements starting right after joining us seemed too coincidental. A bold hypothesis formed. Seizing an opportunity, I tested Dave. Dave, these 5 years must have been tough. Dave's body stiffened slightly, his face adopting a vacant expression. What are you talking about? I kept my composure and asked slowly. What secret did you uncover that forced you to fake insanity for 5 years to survive? David Johnson's eyes brimmed with naive confusion, as if he couldn't comprehend my words. Yet that very night, David sneaked out. I followed him discreetly to the old Wilson-Johnson family estate. The decaying mansion had rotting window frames that offered no soundproofing. Crouching beneath the windowsill, I soon overheard David and Michael Johnson's voices rising from within. David's tone dripped with venom. You tried to poison me after I discovered you murdered grandfather John Wilson. It's time we settled this. Michael snarled, you fooled me. 5 years pretending to be mentally disabled, I actually believed it. You dare threaten me? Don't forget it was you who carried the poisoned porridge to John. You were over 14 then old enough for criminal charges. Want mutual destruction? David chuckled darkly. Mutual destruction? Why go that far? We're father and son. Why slaughter each other while outsiders profit? Michael regained control. What do you want? I need you to eliminate Aunt Lisa Johnson and her 2 daughters. Like you eliminated John. You poisoned him to keep my inheritance. Now I want their assets. Michael gritted his teeth. All for you? What's my incentive? Your freedom. Help me, and your murder secret stays buried. Refuse. David let the threat hang. Michael barked a laugh. We're cut from the same cloth. David, you'd have exposed me years ago if it didn't implicate yourself. 50-50 split or nothing. After haggling, they settled on equal shares. Michael concluded, on John's Memorial Day, Take those 3 women to visit his grave. I'll handle the rest. My heart sank. Here it comes, just like last life. Michael plans to kill us all in an explosion again. Only now David's included in the death list. Of course Michael wouldn't tolerate 5 years of deception followed by blackmail. David hesitated. How will you do it? Same method. After you lead them out. I'll poison their provisions. Just avoid eating there that day. David swallowed the lie whole, gripping the voice recorder tightly. I hurried away. Soon. It would be the anniversary of John Wilson's death. David Johnson said with feigned sincerity. Sophie. Since joining the Wilson family, I've never paid respects to Dad at his grave. Tomorrow's the anniversary. Let's all visit together so he'll rest easy knowing the Wilson-Johnson family legacy continues. My mother Sophie Turner agreed without suspicion. At dawn the next day, we encountered Daniel Johnson and his friends at the foot of the ancestral gravesite. Dan? What are you doing here? I asked. The middle schooler pointed at David. Dave promised me a gaming console if I waited here. My eyes narrowed with understanding. David had taken Dan hostage against Michael Johnson's potential retaliation. I snuck out without telling Mom and Dad. Dan boasted. Brought friends as cover too. David praised his cousin's cunning before dismissing Dan's companions. Approaching the graves, I suggested. Sophie. I dreamt Grandpa Wilson demanded we visit him first. My mother nodded. We'll pay respects to the elder before John's plot. David paled visibly. I pressed further. Grandpa said even in death, he couldn't forgive the unfilial descendants. Who do you think he meant? Sophie? Could it be how Dad and Uncle Michael neglected him during his final illness? Unlikely. Sophie frowned. John cared for him meticulously during his decline. Though truthfully, the old man's condition deteriorated suddenly. David interjected nervously. Maybe I should skip visiting Grandpa's grave. My recent illness wouldn't want to disturb his spirit. We'll split up then. I proposed. Sophie. And I will visit Grandpa Wilson's plot with Dan. You go ahead to Dad's grave. Local custom forbids dual grave visits in one day anyway. David agreed but insisted Dan accompany him to John's burial site, keeping his human shield close. Wait here until we return, he ordered, ensuring Michael would have ample time to plant explosives. As they disappeared up the path, I sighed quietly. The extinction curse had finally shifted to the Johnson branch. The earth-shattering blast came moments later. No need for confirmation. David and Dan's fragmented, charred remains scattered across the hillside told the tragic tale. Sophie tried rushing toward the carnage, but I restrained her. Villagers soon discovered the grisly scene and alerted Michael Johnson. The patriarch came running, his anguished cries echoing through the valley as he screamed, "Where is my son? Where is my sister-in-law? Where are my 2 nieces? Why must fate be so cruel? How could they be blown to pieces? How did explosives end up here? Which cursed devil did this?" As Michael Johnson wailed dramatically, Emily Wilson, her mother, and sister shoved through the crowd, screaming, "David? Where's David Johnson? What happened here? How could there be an explosion?" Michael grabbed Em's arm. You're all unharmed? Was it David who died? Why only David? Weren't you supposed to come together? Did you kill him because he recovered and might claim his property share? The Johnson family patriarch quickly shifted blame onto the Wilson family through tearful accusations. Between sobs, Em delivered the devastating news. It wasn't just David. Daniel Johnson, Dan, was there too. Uncle Michael. Both your sons are dead. Your bloodline ends here. Michael staggered backward, skull cracking against his brother's tombstone. After confirming Dan's death, he turned rabid, finger jabbing at the Wilsons. "This was your doing." Em calmly explained how David had lured Dan out, corroborated by Dan's friends. Michael's posture collapsed as realization dawned for the first time. Genuine remorse flashed through his eyes. Aunt Lisa Johnson lunged at her husband, clawing and biting. But Michael only glared at the Wilsons like a starved wolf. As authorities escorted the family downhill, police already waited at their home. Spotting officers. Michael bolted until M shouted, "Officers! That's him!" Michael Johnson tried poisoning our family. Police subdued Michael as M produced a recorder, evidence of him conspiring with his sons to kill us. Though, ironically, she tilted her head. Both conspirators just got blown up. Karma's swift. Isn't it? Forensics found no poison but discovered Michael's modified fireworks meant for the Wilsons. Under interrogation, he confessed his own bomb accidentally killed David and Dan. His lawyer begged Aunt Lisa for forgiveness to avoid execution. Michael will forfeit all assets. M snorted, "Aunt Lisa inherits everything when he dies anyway." Lisa's expression hardened. The court sentenced Michael to immediate death by lethal injection. On execution day, M realized they'd outlived their original expiration date by 8 months. The mortal curse was finally broken.